Here's a question I often ask my students. Which of these pictures is a better illustration for the concept drank? And which is better for the concept drank up? People usually answer that the picture on the left is best for drank, and the picture on the right suggests drank up. What's the difference, really? I'd say that in English, to drink up suggests completion. An action has been performed, it was completed, and there's a result. The juice is all gone. I drank it up. But if we say just drank, that doesn't really tell us whether the action was completed or not. Is there still some juice? We may not know, or we may not care. But we don't seem to express this distinction very systematically or consistently in English. For example, if you finished a movie, you can't say that you watched up a movie or you read up a book. There may be other ways to express that you finished doing something, but often in English we're just not too concerned with this nuance of completion, with the result. In Russian, though, the notion of an action being completed with a result is fundamental. In fact, it is a really big deal. It's so important that for nearly every English verb, you will be learning actually a pair of related Russian verbs. One that specifies an action with completion, with a result, and one that doesn't. Those that do specify completion we'll call perfective, and the others we'll call imperfective. Let's flesh this out a little bit more. Perfective verbs are typically used for actions that happen once, are completed, and when there's some result that's relevant. Imperfectives are used then for repeated actions, or when you emphasize duration, when the action wasn't completed, or when the action is described as being in progress, or even when it's just not important whether it was complete or not. This means that you'll almost always be learning verbs in pairs. In most books, the imperfective will be given first. Always be sure to learn both aspects for a verb because you'll be using both of them all the time. And just one or two other important points. The names imperfective and perfective might sound like the names of tenses in some other languages, but in Russian, imperfective and perfective are not tenses, they're aspects, that is, they're ways of viewing and expressing an action, not limited to a specific tense. That's why you'll see either aspect used in the infinitive, in the past tense, in commands, and in the future. There is one really important exception to this, and that's that only imperfective verbs can have present tense meaning. There's a kind of a logic here. If something is happening in the present, it must either be going on right now as a process, or maybe it's a general repeated action. And since only imperfective verbs are used for repeated actions or actions in progress, it makes sense that only the imperfective can have present tense meaning. Summing up, the Russian equivalent for nearly every English verb is a pair of verbs in two aspects, imperfective and perfective. Perfective aspect focuses on completion and result. It's often used for one-time actions. The imperfective says nothing at all about completion or results, and it's typically used for repeated actions and actions in progress. Finally, be aware that we're just scratching the surface here. In coming videos, we'll talk about the forms of the two aspects and look at examples in context. And don't worry if this seems kind of abstract. The main point for this video is that aspect is an essential, it's very expressive, and sometimes very subtle feature of the Russian language that you'll be thinking about for a very long time.